I made this car crash scene in Blender and you'll see the final render in a few seconds, but first real quick, what is this about? Long story short, every year happens the largest contest in the 3D world. 3D artists from all over the world try their best to win. If you win, you also get something. For 2025 the challenge was to replace what you see in this example scene with something beautiful. But you cannot change the provided camera movement, nor the speed or motion of the car. So I ended up with this. This contest is an idea of this man.
My name's Clinton Jones, also known as the Pwnisher.
At first I wasn't planning to join, but then I looked at the template and thought, wait a second, this is literally what I've been doing for years. My Instagram is full of cars flying, crashing, jumping on ramps, cars destruction and such. So I had to do this. The deadline, basically 2 weeks for me. The conditions of the contest are very precise, especially 2 things that Clint said caught my attention.
We'll be looking for renders that can first and foremost tell a story. Next, we're looking for lighting and render quality.
Now, first thing I think about in a contest is, what will most people do? Probably realistic cars on boring roads with the most realistic renders and that's it. So let's not do just another one of those. A car crash would be pretty uncommon for sure, but that's not enough. I need something different, something people can relate to, possibly giving emotions. At the same time, I have to remember that what matters is
a story, lighting and render quality.
Out of nowhere, here is the idea: drop the phone and drive. Finally, this shot has a story, a message, a soul, it's relatable. Let's be honest, you know at least one person who texts while driving. I did a bunch of tests for the destruction simulation and that was just fun. I basically developed a system for destroying cars in real time with the help of RBC, which is a little yet powerful add-on for Blender. If you wanna learn how, check out my Patreon, in which there are a lot of step-by-step tutorials, including this one. Link in description. The hard part was respecting the template. Same location, same speed. When making a simulation, you don't really have total control of where objects would go bounce around the environment. So here's what I did. Animate the rigid bodies by hand in the first part, and then switch to the simulation right before the impact. You can do this sort of art-directed simulation in Blender by simply keyframing this parameter of a rigid body, switching from on to off. To force the car to exit on the right side, like in the template, I even added an invisible wall. For the ragdoll, I used the 3D scan of myself. Ragdoll Tools add-on really helped in this part. I actually had to figure out a way for inserting a ragdoll inside a simulated car, and it worked great. All good except for one glitch. My head kept poking through the roof. Didn't have time to figure out why this was happening, so I simply hid the issue using some shape kits. However, after sending the submission, I actually figured out what was causing that. Okay, I got the story, I got the simulation, but in my mind, Clint keeps repeating.
Lighting, 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 lighting.
Fine, lighting first, build the environment after. So, what is the best lighting setup I can think of? Sunset, volumetric lights, and lights only where I want to focus the viewer's attention. Shadows are as important as light, so I kept most of the environment dark, adding invisible black panels to block irrelevant areas. I wanted the landscape to be perceptible but not invasive. In Blender Cycles, you can do this by turning off the camera visibility of an object, so you don't see the plane itself, but it's casting shadows. I love volumetric lights, but render times are crazy. A faster option is to use a giant cube with an emission volume shader. It doesn't produce volumetric shadows, but at least it gives that atmospheric look. I still didn't like it, so I opted for another solution. I combined the mist path for the atmosphere, a few volumetric clouds, actual volumes for getting a bit of God rays without slowing down too much the render, sunbeams in compositing. These are definitely less accurate compared to real volumetrics in the 3D space, but definitely 10 times faster for the render. And if something looks weird, mask it out. I used the Embergen for making the smoke simulation in real time. Great news, recently they added animated domains with which basically you can focus the maximum quality of your smoke simulation on a moving subject, which previously was not possible. Finally, decompositing. Look, when you export a 3D render just like that, it's horrible, completely flat, feels incomplete. With compositing, we can add all those sort of things that can upgrade the realism of a 3D scene, correct the colors and stuff. At the same time, it's useful for adding some effects in post-process that are fast to compute, since they are added just after the render. Effects such as sunbeams, for instance, or the atmosphere with the mist pass. This can drastically reduce render times. I usually like to blur my renders a tiny bit, to actually soften the typical excessive sharpness that usually comes with CGI. This also helps indirectly to reduce the noise of your renders. I also had to spend a whole day optimizing all these 3D scans, dropping down the polygons count from 60 millions to only 2 millions in the final project. At the same time, I ensured to preserve the photorealistic look by baking textures and normals. Result, not perfect, but good enough for the time I had. Am I gonna win? No! And that's fine! Look, if you approach this contest only for winning, that's the wrong mindset. Sorry to say that, but there are insane artists in this contest. The top of the top over the top kind. But that's not the point. Being part of events like this is pure fuel for motivation. You can learn a ton, share the journey with a huge community, get feedbacks directly from Clint on the YouTube live, and you grow. That's the real prize. Alright, that's it. Enjoy the journey and have a good one.